After tomorrow, you won't be part of this family anymore. That's what my son's fiancée whispered to me right before the wedding, softly, but so cold it stole the air from my lungs. I stood there frozen, still holding the photo album I had spent weeks putting together. Every picture, every memory from 28 years of raising him on my own. She didn't even look at it. "You've done your job," she continued, smiling like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. "Starting tomorrow, he's my family, and you're just the past." I don't remember how I walked away. I only remember the feeling, like my heart was breaking into pieces. For 28 years, my entire life revolved around my son, and in just a few seconds, I was erased from his life like I had never existed. The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. I didn't go to the wedding, but what I didn't know was, just a few hours later, the entire wedding would fall apart in a way no one could have imagined. If you want to know what happened next, comment 1 to watch the full video. Before everything fell apart that day, no one truly understood what I had gone through to get there. 28 years ago, when my husband left, he didn't just walk out on me. He left behind an 8-year-old boy standing at the door clutching a toy dinosaur and asking a question I'll never forget. "Mom, when is Dad coming back?" I didn't have an answer. From that moment on, I became everything. Mother, father, provider, protector. I worked double shifts at the hospital cafeteria. Some nights I came home so exhausted I fell asleep on the couch in my uniform. But the next morning, I still woke up early to make him breakfast, pretending everything was okay. I gave up promotions. I passed on vacations other people took for granted. Every dollar I earned went to Ethan, from tuition and books to his dream of becoming a lawyer. And what kept me going wasn't the sacrifice. It was the little moments. Like when Ethan ran home with a certificate and said, "Mom, I did it." Or the one sentence I'll never forget. "Mom, one day I want to protect people who have no one to protect them, just like you protected me." That one sentence was enough to make me believe it was all worth it. So to me, Ethan's wedding wasn't just his big day. It was proof that, even after giving up my entire youth, I had raised a good man. At least, that's what I used to believe. The first time I met Jessica, I truly wanted to believe my son had chosen the right person. She was beautiful, confident, and effortlessly charming, the kind of person who could command an entire room. Ethan looked at her in a way I had never seen before, and I told myself, as long as he's happy, that's enough. But then little things started to bother me. Whenever Ethan left the room, her tone changed instantly. No longer warm, no longer polite, just cold, like talking to me was an inconvenience she had to tolerate. She never once asked about Ethan's past. She didn't care what we had been through together. Every conversation somehow circled back to her job, her friends, her plans for the future. At the time, I tried to reassure myself. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. But sometimes, your instincts aren't wrong. If you've ever ignored a clear red flag, leave a in the comments. The more time I spent around Jessica, the more I realized those earlier concerns weren't in my head. She wasn't just distant with me, she was slowly starting to control Ethan in subtle ways. At first, it was small changes. Ethan began following a new diet Jessica had set for him. The foods he used to love, especially the ones I cooked, suddenly disappeared. Whenever I asked, he'd just give a forced smile. "Jessica says it's better for my health." Then came the way he spoke. Shorter answers, less sharing. It felt like an invisible distance was growing between us. But what really caught my attention was the way Jessica looked at him. It wasn't the look of someone in love. It was the look of someone evaluating. She often talked about Ethan's future, but not like a partner building a life together. More like, "You're gonna be a lawyer soon, right? That field must pay really well, huh?" She never asked what kind of person Ethan wanted to become. She only cared what he was going to become. At parties, she didn't introduce him as, "This is Ethan, my fiancé." She'd say, "This is Ethan, future lawyer." It sounded normal on the surface, but the more I heard it, the clearer it became. To Jessica, Ethan wasn't someone to love. He was an asset to invest in, and what scared me most was that Ethan didn't seem to realize it. Everything truly reached its breaking point on Ethan's birthday last year. It had been our tradition for over a decade. Every year, I made his favorite cake myself, chocolate fudge with peanut butter frosting. No matter how busy I was, I never skipped it. The night before, I stayed up until nearly 2 a.m. to finish it. Every layer, every small detail, was made with a mother's love. When I brought the cake out, Ethan smiled, that familiar smile that made me believe everything was still the same. But Jessica didn't. She looked at the cake and gave a faint smile. "Oh, it's kind of cute." Then she added, almost immediately, "But Ethan's on a new diet. He really shouldn't be eating things like this." Before I could even react, she gently took the knife from my hand and set the cake aside. No one touched it after that. Ethan just smiled and kissed my cheek. "Thanks, Mom. You didn't have to go through all that trouble." You didn't have to. Those words stopped me cold. I looked at the cake sitting there, untouched, perfect, and completely unnecessary. And for the first time I realized it wasn't that I didn't matter anymore. It was that I was slowly being replaced. After that birthday, things changed faster than I expected. When Ethan announced his engagement, I genuinely tried to be happy. I told myself, maybe I just needed to be a little more patient, and everything would fall into place. That Jessica would eventually accept me, just as I had tried to accept her. But the reality was the complete opposite. I wasn't included in any part of the wedding planning, not a single dress fitting, not one cake tasting, not even the seating arrangements. Everything was decided as if I didn't exist. One day, I gathered the courage to ask Jessica, "Is there anything I can help with?" She smiled, a perfect smile that felt oddly cold. "Don't worry, everything's under control. You just need to show up that day, looking presentable." Just show up, not as his mother, not as family, just a guest. I nodded, still smiling like I always did. But inside, something quietly broke. I started to realize that in the story Jessica was building, there was no place for me. And maybe there never had been. But I stayed silent, because I thought, as long as Ethan was happy, it would all be worth it. I was wrong. The night before the wedding, everything crossed the line. I brought the album to the rehearsal dinner, a gift I had spent weeks preparing. Inside was Ethan's entire childhood. His first steps, the times he scraped his knees, all the way to the day he got his law school acceptance. I wanted Jessica to see. The man she was about to marry was shaped by all of that. But she didn't even look. Instead, Jessica walked over, leaned in close, and whispered just loud enough for me to hear, "After tomorrow, you're no longer part of this family." I froze. She smiled, her voice soft but every word cut deep. "You've done your part. Ethan is my husband now. His family is me. And you're just the past." I couldn't say a word. "Don't make yourself look pathetic by showing up tomorrow," she added. "We don't need you there." Then she gave my hand a light pat, like I was a child who needed comforting. In that moment, I wasn't just insulted, I was erased. If your heart goes out to this mother, leave a 2 in the comments, and thank you for listening to my story. That night, I went home, but it felt like I had just walked away from an entire life. I don't remember how I drove. I don't remember which streets I passed. I only know that when I opened the door and stepped inside, the silence felt almost unbearable. I set the album down on the table, my hands still trembling. The pages fell open, each photo staring back at me. Ethan, as a little boy, smiling, holding on to me, like I was his whole world. And now, I was the one being pushed out. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at that album for what felt like forever. Tears fell, but there was no sound, just an emptiness, slowly spreading through my chest. I thought about going back, about telling Ethan everything, about standing up for myself. But then, I stopped. Not because I was weak, but because I was exhausted. Exhausted from having to prove I was worthy. Exhausted from trying to hold on to a place that someone else had already decided to take away. I looked at myself in the mirror, a woman who had spent nearly her entire life living for others. And for the first time, I asked myself, if I'm no longer their family, then who am I? That night, I made a decision. Tomorrow morning, I won't be there. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. A reflex shaped over 28 years. I made coffee, took the light blue dress out of the closet, the one I had picked months ago. The same dress Ethan once saw and said, "Mom, you look really beautiful in that color." Everything felt like I was still going. But then, her words from the night before came back, clear and cold. "You're no longer part of this family." I sat down, staring at the cup of coffee as the steam rose, and didn't touch it. My phone started buzzing, Messages from relatives. We're at the church already. Are you here yet? Then from Ethan. Mom, we're about to start. Where are you? My chest tightened. I picked up the phone, read every message. My finger hovered over the call button. Just one call, and everything could be different. But then I set the phone down. The screen lit up again. An incoming call. Ethan's name. I didn't answer. The ringing echoed, then stopped. The house fell silent again. Outside, everyone was gathering at the church. And me? I was still sitting here, alone. For the first time in my life, I didn't chase after a relationship to keep it alive. For the first time, I chose not to show up. And I had no idea that in just a few hours, that decision would change everything. Around 10 a.m., there was a frantic knock on the door. I opened it and saw my sister standing there, still in her bridesmaid dress, her face a mix of panic and anger. Margaret, what are you doing? She almost shouted. The ceremony's about to start. Everyone's looking for you. I stood there in silence for a few seconds, then said calmly, I'm not going. She froze. Not going? Do you even understand what today is? It's your son's wedding. I looked straight into her eyes, for the first time not avoiding it. Jessica, his bride, told me that I'm no longer part of this family. The room fell into silence. My sister slowly sat down, like she had just heard something impossible. She actually said that? I nodded. After a long pause, she sighed, her voice softer. But if you don't go, people will think you abandoned your own son. I gave a faint smile, one without emotion. Then let them think that. For years, I had gotten used to being judged, used to staying silent to keep the peace. But today, I didn't want to play the role of the perfect mother anymore. If staying meant accepting disrespect, then leaving was the only choice I had left. And this time, I didn't change my mind. 11 passed, then 11:15. The church bells, meant to signal a new beginning, rang out, then faded into silence. I was still sitting in that room, not moving, not checking my phone, until it vibrated again. It was my sister. I hesitated for a few seconds, then answered. Margaret. Her voice was shaking, completely different from earlier. You need to sit down. My chest tightened. What happened? A brief pause, then she spoke, fast and breathless. The wedding? It's not happening. I thought I misheard. What did you say? It's been called off, right before it started. The air in the room seemed to freeze. Why? On the other end, she took a deep breath, like she couldn't believe what she was about to say. Jessica, she's been exposed. I tightened my grip on the phone. Exposed for what? You're not going to believe this. Ethan just found out the truth, minutes before the ceremony. I couldn't speak. In a single moment, everything had turned, and I realized something. I didn't ruin that wedding. It collapsed on its own. What happened next felt like a nightmare no one could have imagined. Just 30 minutes before the ceremony, Ethan was in the waiting room, nervous, excited like any groom would be. Then Mark, his best friend, burst in, pale-faced, holding his phone. You need to see this. On the screen were photos. Jessica, in another man's arms. Not old pictures. Not a misunderstanding. From 2 weeks ago. The man was her boss, the same one she always called her respected mentor. I could picture that moment. Ethan frozen in place, his world collapsing right in front of him. The late nights, the vague messages, the way she avoided his questions, all of it suddenly made sense. When Ethan stormed into the bridal room, there was no turning back. Jessica tried to explain, tried to deny it, but the evidence didn't lie. The room fell into a suffocating silence, and for the first time, her perfect image shattered completely. If you think Jessica is truly terrifying, leave a in the comments and tell me what you think. But if you think it ended with Jessica cheating, it didn't. That was only the surface. The truth behind it was far colder. While the church was still in chaos over the photos, another secret began to spread, this time from people close to Jessica herself. She hadn't just betrayed Ethan, she had planned everything from the beginning. Jessica's family was drowning in debt, failed investments, years of financial collapse. And to them, this marriage wasn't about love. It was a deal. Ethan, a future lawyer with stable income and strong prospects, was their way out. The prenuptial agreement Jessica had pushed for wasn't as simple as it seemed. Hidden inside were clauses that could redirect a large portion of Ethan's future earnings into accounts tied to her family. In other words, they weren't trying to build a family. They were trying to control a source of money. And in that moment, everything became clear. Jessica wasn't just a cheating woman. She was part of a plan, carefully calculated long before Ethan ever proposed. 11:15 a.m., the church was full. Guests sat quietly, waiting for the back doors to open so the bride could walk in, but those doors never opened. Instead, Ethan walked out. No wedding music, no smile, just a pale face and eyes that had completely changed. Whispers spread across the room. Ethan stood in the aisle, looking straight at everyone, then said, his voice shaking but clear, "There won't be a wedding today." The air seemed to vanish. "Jessica betrayed me," he continued, "and I'm not marrying a lie." Gasps rippled through the crowd, confused glances. Phones began to come out. From the back, Jessica rushed forward, her white wedding dress flawless, her face filled with panic. "Ethan, what are you doing?" "I'm telling the truth," he replied, his voice turning cold. "Something you haven't done this whole time." She tried to deny it, tried to explain, tried to turn herself into the victim. But this time, no one believed her. The photos had already spread, the whispers had begun. Jessica's family jumped to their feet, shouting, protesting, trying to hold on to the last pieces of their reputation. But it was too late. In just a few minutes, a wedding planned for months collapsed completely, right in front of hundreds of people. I thought that would be the end of it. That the truth was already clear, that what Jessica had done spoke for itself. But I underestimated them. Just a few hours after the wedding was called off, new posts started appearing on social media. Not from Ethan, from Jessica. A photo of her in her wedding dress, eyes red, mascara smudged, looking like the perfect victim. The caption was short: "Some people don't know how to let go, and some mothers never learn." Within minutes, hundreds of comments flooded in, strangers criticizing, people we knew starting to question things. And then, the story was twisted. I became the controlling mother, the one who had interfered with her son's happiness, the one who ruined the wedding. I sat in front of the screen, reading every line, unable to believe it. The truth was still there, but no one wanted to hear it. Ethan called me, his voice exhausted. "Mom, don't say anything, it'll pass." But I knew. This time, silence was no longer an option. Because if I stayed silent, then this story would never be the truth. This time, I didn't stay silent. If they chose to manipulate public opinion with emotion, then I would use the truth. I started gathering everything. Emails Ethan had received, the prenuptial agreement with its unusual clauses, even records of Jessica's family, bankruptcies, debts. I didn't add anything. I didn't comment. Just the truth. Clear, cold, undeniable. With the help of a friend in the legal field, I passed all the documents to an investigative financial journalist. 1 week later, the article was published. The headlines spread everywhere. "Behind the canceled wedding, a financial scheme exposed." Everything shifted. The people who had criticized me fell silent, then apologized, then turned on Jessica. The truth, finally, was seen. Ethan came to see me one quiet evening. He sat down, said nothing for a few seconds, then took my hand. "Mom, I'm sorry." I looked at him, not the little boy from years ago, but a man who had just been through something devastating. "I should have seen it sooner," I smiled gently. "It's okay. What matters is that you see it now." He held my hand tighter, his voice breaking. "Mom, you've always been my family." And this time, I believed him.